Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Howard Company's Branding, Signage, and Technology podcast. My name is Brian Ward. Today I am joined by Kelsey and Jared from our design group. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to introduce them and what they specialize in as far as content making, menu production, so on. So, Kelsey, you want to get started?
I'm a digital designer here with the Howard Company, meaning I help with the management and creation of branding elements and graphics on primarily digital displays, but also printed. And I'm also pretty involved in any video content that might be needed by customers or internally.
Yep. So my name's Jared Dempsey, as Brian had said. I'm a creative layout designer, and I flex between static and digital designs. So I handle menu creation, managing content for other customers, and then tackling a bunch of different custom setups, whether it's static or digital too. So
nice. So as you probably noticed, we're not in our normal attire. Today we are hosting our company's Summer Olympics. So we kind of each have a different theme going on, but just a fun way to grow our company culture. So that's later today, but so we're going to dive right in. Our topic today that we want to talk to these two about are the importance of high quality photos on your menu. We could talk a lot about restaurants, but convenience stores, even bank images, dispensaries, grocery stores, so on and so on. So just to open it up, what kind of is a high quality image? How would you define that?
Well, the technical side of things would be the actual resolution that the picture comes in at, which is notified by like DPI or PPI. So that's the actual resolution of the photo. But
the clarity.
How visible it actually is and
what size.
Yeah, right. Because the higher you are, the closer you are to real life, so to say, right? Where the more pixels per inch is what that stands for. So the cleaner that looks, like Kelsey had said. And then like the framing's another big thing too.
Yes,
So
because I think you were going in the direction of like quality isn't necessarily clarity on its own. People usually assume clarity because that is very important. Depending on the size that you need to display your image, obviously that's going to influence it. But quality is also a reflection of the lighting, the coloring, how you staged it, and what that image ultimately captures. Not just like a message for verbiage or anything, but just kind of the aesthetic of your company and the quality of your food in turn is reflected by how well it's captured in that image.
yeah, because you can get really consistent brand consistency with the same exact style and formatting of your images, like across if you have multiple different combos, right? And all of them are formatted and structured the same way, you can really build a brand identity with just your photos.
Right.
It's starting there even. And
so being consistent with your quality is important too. We'll get more into the details though, I think, how we build that.
Yeah. And then kind of at the same time, talking about video with digital screens, I mean, we try and push motion as much as possible for customers that have digital menu boards. Is there any kind of format as far as videos, what makes them high quality, what you guys look for as far as being good to use versus this might not show up as well?
Yeah, we've had animated backgrounds, and so when it's a display, be it the whole screen or just part of a screen with a section of text in front of it, we actually strongly encourage simple movement. It is eye-catching to have steam rising from a cup of coffee that is otherwise static and staying still, and it's just a nice wafting that kind of draws the eye, but you can still see the text. You don't want something that is so abrupt and flashy and constant that you distract from the actual information on your boards, because first and foremost, the information is the important part. But we also have promo sections that might have a full we're hiring, come join our company kind of video, or a rotation of LTOs and a flashing of colors and whatever else. Those flashier elements usually should be, you've done many animations for a few customers involving like a plate of wings and it's all flashy and fun, but it's only on there for a little bit of time. So it depends on the application.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we too, like on the technical side of things, like the bit rate and the frame rate are things that we look for technically to make sure that it's, I guess more so that's to make sure it displays properly, but that is too to, making sure that that's high quality, up to standards, and then at the
And
proper,
consistent.
exactly, that it's playing right. So.
Yeah, and we do edit that for some customers, but often when customers express an interest in that kind of format, animation, or whatever, we give them the parameters that they should aim for. But not many customers have video editing capabilities in their own wheelhouse, so we do kind of bridge that gap for a lot of people.
So diving more into that, if if somebody's watching this and they're like, well, it's hard for me because I don't have videographers, photographers on my team. Maybe I don't want to hire outside work because maybe it's too expensive. If people don't have professional people doing this for them, what are some best practices they can follow to make sure that their images, their videos are high quality enough to look good for the customers?
There's a lot to be said, starting with your composition. Composition being how all of the elements that are involved in your ultimate message are within the frame. So understand first that when you're shooting a photo and you want to just isolate the food to put it onto a menu, you'll likely be cropping out the background. So there's a little bit of breathing space that you should always allow for in still images and even in video, where your subject, if there's some amount of doctoring that needs to be made to the size and ratio and like shape of the graphic itself, you're not encroaching on the subject. You're not cropping out part of the person's body or half of the fries on the platter. So staging it is a really important thing to keep in mind. Give yourself the breathing space. If you want it front and center, we see a lot of top-down views or three-quarter views where like a pretty face of the item is front and center. But then what you put that item on is also important. If it's a platter, paper plate, whatever kind of staging you think represents your company, great. But then also keep in mind from an editing standpoint, again, if we're cropping out the background, maybe don't put it on an elaborate table that has a lot of alternating colors. If you're familiar with photo editing, there are things that are like white tables that people use so they can just isolate the item itself. If you don't have that, which most customers don't, a simple tablecloth put down, solid color works tremendously well.
Yeah. I see it with my mom's business all the time where I'm helping her with taking photos and stuff like that and utilizing something for me when I'm editing those photos. Something on a simple background makes it a lot easier. But there's a lot of cool things you can do with layering too if that's what you're looking for. Where if you have like, again, for hers, it's a mix-based thing, right? So she's got the product and then the actual physical mix itself, and she layers that behind it, and then you can do some cool things where that's layered, and she's not putting it on a menu per se, but you can do the same thing there depending on what style you're looking for. Like you said, where the plate you have, if you do that, keep it consistent as much as you can throughout, because if you have one that has a white plate, one that's on a paper plate, and one that doesn't have anything there, it's like that doesn't look very consistent, and you can kind of lose focus as you go through. So
you can lose focus, and not just the plating, but we have seen customers submit images, and to their credit, they are trying to provide reference and guidance while outright stating like they are not the graphics experts that they're expecting us to be. But we have received images of product that was not their own. So don't include an item that has a wrapper that has your competitor's logo on it. Yeah. And the way you might dress a to-go item versus an in-restaurant piece, maybe that would be cool to shoot the difference. And also, as you're talking, since your mom works with an edible mix of things, if you have sides or smaller pieces that you might want to use as a graphic element where there's just fries cascading in the background. Take some isolated images of single fry. With the power of editing, you can actually take those and then place them near enough each other that they seem to be this coherent, splash across the page but you can get a lot more clarity if you focus on one item at a time.
100%. And this is kind of an aside, but oh man, what was I saying?
There's a lot we can talk about.
Oh, I don't know, whatever.
Also really big wake and
There's something.
Is there different parameters for printing graphics versus digital?
Yes. For what they should be supplying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how those images should come across to.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was mentioning before with the PPI or the DPI, or rather the resolution of the photos, is that printed static stuff is very more specific on how they need that. So you need a lot higher resolution to make sure that you're succeeding properly, because most of the time it's being printed at larger sizes, and that's not always the case, but it's being physically printed, whereas anything digital is going to be displayed on a screen that's made for taking something that's smaller resolution.
Yeah. To expound upon that, because you mentioned PPI earlier, PPI being pixels per inch. Don't ask me the how all of it breaks down, but the power of technology, pixels can provide a lot more detail and clarity. But DPI, in terms of print, is dots per inch.
Yep.
So it is literally dots of ink. Therefore, we need a lot more information in that image to provide to the printer, so it knows exactly how many dots to provide and where it needs to change color to get that same crisp clarity that the photo itself had originally.
Yeah.
And also color is a major thing, because your brightest white in print is the white of your paper or the material you're printing on, whereas digital you have pixels that are blasting light as bright as possible. So there's a difference there, and in digital terms it's RGB, whereas in print it's CMYK. A lot of people probably know that, but also, you know, most of us don't know the whys, even if we've heard those phrases before.
100%.
Yeah. Is there, and Kelsey, you kind of hit on this before when you were talking about too much motion. Is there what's the sweet spot of number of images you should have? I've seen some menus who they have an image for every food item on their menu, but then there's some that don't have any images at all.
Yeah.
So images, but also colors on their menu. What's the sweet spot where it's not feeling overcrowded?
And this isn't always the case, but I like to do like 1 or 2 images per section that I'm doing.
Right.
That's usually like a standard for me, where I start at the very least. So if I have like a burger section and then I have a drink section, and that might change depending on what you have. Like sometimes you could do multiple drinks in a cool, fun way where it's like stylized, but that's my standard, at least. I don't know what you follow for that, depending on what the customer wants to, but I think doing like one where I'll make it larger and then, really focus on that item if it's one of their staple items, and draw the eye in there with just a little bit of imagery so it pops, and then also outweigh the text a bit too.
I think when it's at that big pop image, it's usually best when that's like the only one in that section, be it a whole board that's promoting a big top seller. But I agree, it's visual shorthand to have your drink section with a soft drink and a shake and maybe some iced tea, because then you've covered your major bases. But you don't need to have every single flavor of like soda that you offer. Most people put icons, or at least they list the brand of soda that they carry, Pepsi or Coke or whatnot, because it is overwhelming, or you straight up might not have enough room for it. But I think that's a good way to describe it, is have enough to identify the section.
Sure.
To draw the eye, and maybe even just less is more, use that negative space to really promote a singular piece. I see a lot of customers who do provide images for darn near every image they have, every item they have. And it's great for indoor menus, in my opinion, or not necessarily indoor displays, even like handheld menus, because then you can sit and really look at it if you want to see the item at that detail. But there's something to be said for when you should be using all of your branding assets and when you don't need to. Because in the drive-thru, there's a lot riding on your turnaround time for your products. You don't want people to be there staring at images for too long.
Sure.
I've had a customer somewhat recently ask to have some of their images taken down because people were spending too much time waiting for the full rotation of their options. Their food looks great, and it is great. For indoor boards, if people are waiting in line anyway, and there's less of, you don't have a loop and cars and time tracking, that's a stronger use of more images.
Yeah. I think the indoor call-out's very nice too, because that's very true that people have more wiggle room in terms of waiting when they're inside rather than the drive-through. And this may be contradictory, but I do think that depending on the number of items that you have on your board, that it can be beneficial to do an image per item.
If you have the space,
If you have the space and it's not too crowded. It's very visual when you have to kind of see it to be like, okay, yeah, there's too much there, where it's tough to say on a it's more case by case basis, but it can be really powerful when you have just 10 items and every single one has a combo imagery on it and it looks really nice and it's simple where, okay, I don't even need long descriptions to read. I can just look at it and say, okay, I know that's a double cheeseburger. That's just a single hamburger. This one has bacon on it. And you can see that from the images without having to even read it.
Yep, that's a really good point, is that the power of photos might negate the need for hyper-specific descriptions. You should always have some kind of call-out, maybe just in the title to give the customer an idea, but that image might cover a lot of those bases for you.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, if that's 10 items on your menu total, some customers have easily 60 items. And what's nice about digital is you can rotate those sections. You might only have 2 images up at one time, and that displays for 30 seconds, and then all of the written information may stay, but those 2 images suddenly switch for a different 2 images, and so you can see a variety of shakes roll by. And at that point, you want, again, to shoot everything consistently so the lighting and the angle doesn't suddenly change and it looks coherent and wobbly as it does shift, but then you can utilize your whole gambit of flavor options.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely a science, and I always encourage people, if they're unsure what might work better, or vice versa, to A/B test, especially if they have digital. The easiest way to do this, and I know not a lot of customers have them, but multiple lanes in your drive-thru, and they each have digital drive-thru menu boards. I think to A/B test on those, show more images on one, show less on the other, show more motion on one, show less on the other. It's definitely a good tool. We also have a good tool. It's a heat map. It allows you to submit your current menu board, and then we kind of analyze where customers are looking, and it allows you to kind of get an understanding of, are images popping out? Are they worthwhile, or are they just being disregarded? Is it hurting your menu board? So we'll drop that link below the video, and you guys can definitely take advantage of that. Kind of just opening it up a little more to some of the good and bad examples that you guys have come across. Obviously, not customer specific, but and then also kind of hinting on, when you guys get artwork requests, how involved are you guys? Are you do you implement exactly what the customer sends over, or is it more of a consultative process where you guys recommend your best practices and whatnot?
I think we should answer that part first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it depends on the customer, but we will always do as the customer's asking of us, because it's their brand, it's their property. We're not here to question that, but we are here to provide experience and guidance, because yes, you might have 5 colors within your brand, but if you lean too heavily on the super saturated colors and you layer all of those on top of each other, visually it's not going to be very coherent and might be hard to read. And so we'll give guidance where we can and say, I would suggest you work with your secondary color, because that's nice and dark and you can use that in high contrast within your brighter colors, and guidance like that. Not always, stuff that is not every customer is receptive to that feedback, and that's okay. Again, this is their their property. But we'll give our feedback where we can, and excuse me, we've also been from square one the branding experts for a customer who came in and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Please help. Like just where do I even begin? And we're like, cool.
Yeah.
Well, what do you sell? Well, what do you like? What colors do you like?
Yeah. I feel like it can go both ways, like you were saying too. Like most of the time how I'll do it is as long as they're offering enough information to take care of that request and set stuff up, I'll do it exactly how they say.
Yeah.
Until something comes up where I start to question it. Where the big one that I see a lot is if there's too many items. Like, so sometimes customers will offer guidance on where they want them, like in terms of screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. And what sometimes happens is you don't see it until you start laying it out. And once you lay it out, it's like, well, this page has like 40 items and the other ones have like 5. So it's like, is there any way that we can, swap some of this around and move this to one of the other screens to offer some more room and so it's a little more balanced? That's one of the big ones that I see that the guidance helps for that, where, we're lenient to either, we'll do whatever you want, but we're here to help you too, and hope that you can succeed with what you do and make sure we give as much guidance as we can.
Because their success reflects our design skills, and we have enough of an ego to enjoy seeing that happen.
Oh yeah, I'm egotistic.
I want to circle back to your first question again, because we haven't answered that yet, but I'm actually going to step a little further back, because you mentioned having different content on one drive-thru versus another, and you asked about how many pictures is too much. There is a lot of strength in having a designated screen for promotions, so you don't crowd your menu where you need your crucial information, your descriptions, calories, and so forth. So it's not always a feasible option for a mom and pop just starting out. They might not feel the need to invest in a promo board, but a standalone promotional screen really does allow for the flashy videos to go on there, your charity call-outs to go. It can be in a lobby. It can be on one of the 2 drive-thru lanes that's most visible as you first turn in, and then you split off. And you don't need to see it the whole time, but you've got your upsell item was flashing in their face before they split off and finally sat down to decide their order. So yeah, I'm a big fan of designated promo spaces.
Yeah, and A/B testing, you can only make one change at a time.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest key thing with that is I feel like too many people make, I'm going to do motion and then have every menu item have an image on one board, and then on this one I'm not going to have any motion and have half the amount of images. And you're testing it, but you're testing too many things at once. So.
Use your website. Use your website, use your app, use other avenues, your social media to explore that, because that is not a bad thing to want to promote every piece and kind of create a story out of your brand. Yeah. But again, there's a time and a place for when you use all of your branding versus what needs to be communicated to the customer at that moment.
Yeah. And it's even and we have a blog about this too. It's not only about the content on the menu board, it's the time of the day. You don't want to A/B test at 9 a.m. and then 4 p.m. because it's going to have different traffic. Or difference between a Colorado location and a location in New York. Like, it's just going to, again, have a different effect. So, were you going to say something?
No.
I can't recall the question you had before.
Maybe from both of you, one good, one bad example, and
okay.
The bad example, maybe how you offered some advice to the customer.
Yeah, in terms of image usage.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, kind of circling back to what we had mentioned before, there's one customer that I've worked with, and they have images for everything, and which I know I just had said that can be a very powerful thing. We have a lot of
the opposite extreme.
Exactly, where we have a lot of items on the menu, and the photos start taking up too much space, where it's very crowded, and kind of what we were saying before, where it's pushing past that line of the sweet spot, right? Where it's too overcrowded, overbearing, and for being a drive-through, it's hard to take in all that information when you're moving.
And if that's the customer I think it is, the items they provide, their photos don't communicate, because if it's the smoothie one I'm thinking of, the smoothie color itself unfortunately does not communicate all of the ingredients in that smoothie. Right. So now you do need to rely on your descriptions more. Yeah. And so that's what I've seen, that competing for space when you work with them. Yeah.
100%. And then as for a good one, I have another customer who does a very good job of, and I think they go through another firm, but they have very good spatial awareness in terms of how they're sectioning off their spaces for photos. So sometimes they'll implement them, next to the line items and with the text to, transition that and offer some difference there. But then other times they have a full section like on the top of their indoor boards where they have a whole row of burgers, like kind of in a nice line format. And they just do a good way of spatial awareness where they know how much space they can take up, what they can use for the images, how big to make them, and how not to be super overbearing with it. Yeah. I think they do a good job of spacing things out and using them wisely.
Nice.
My good and bad example are the same customer, because this was an example of just a wonderful relationship over the 3 years. I think it's almost about 3 years that we worked with them. They're a burger place as well. And when the owner, who manages like so much of it, and he's directly involved in graphics, and he admitted right away, he's like, I am not an artist, I'm not a graphics person, but he provided photos of his food, and right away I was like, okay, so clean up the background a little bit. Like if items are encroaching, it's hard to crop that out. That's minor. But there was also I forget if it was like a sweater or something, but he was wearing or was near something green, and it was casting that green color over all his food. And I was like, okay. So in addition to keeping the background simple, maybe don't shoot on a reflective metal surface, because that bounces the light back at you. That light is then also bouncing back onto the food. If you're wearing something of a really saturated color that doesn't have to do with your brand, especially, that's going to cast on there. And we had a whole consultation. We were talking about more than just photos, but at least about 10 minutes of that meeting ended up being strictly about photos for the sake of just clarifying where he could improve. And he was nervous that maybe this had to do with the fact that he doesn't have a really nice camera. But Androids and iPhones have wonderfully decent cameras that get good clarity, that can get a decent amount of information. And just in explaining how he could format the shot better physically and stage it, it's been such a breeze to edit his stuff moving forward. Like, he really pays attention now to make sure his bun isn't squished at all or whatever, and he sets it up, and you can tell he puts a lot of care into it now, and editing it is a breeze. I do a little bit of color correction for him. I crop off the background and I throw it up on his promo screens, and it's one of the smoothest processes now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you two have any other helpful tips, tricks, best practices?
You know the thing from 15 minutes ago that I forgot about? I remembered. I was going to note that we also have high-res stock photography and imagery that we can utilize if that's something that you are okay with, where some people don't want to be taking pictures of their food or don't want to hire a photographer to do it or don't want to do it themselves, where we have some that we can offer to allow you to at least bridge the gap for the time being. If you down the road want to have your own photos there too, we have that too.
It won't be super specific to necessarily all of the ingredients you have on your item, and it is obviously limited, but yeah, we have a very strong library of like, at least to land the type of cuisine you're offering. 100%.
Yeah, all different types of food types. Well, I appreciate the conversation. I definitely learned a lot. At least your guys' department, I feel like, is ever changing with technology and working between printing graphics and digital. There's so many details that I think it causes a lot of stress to a lot of operators, all different types of businesses. So if you're ever feeling stuck, you need some guidance, give us a call. You can talk to one of these awesome designers, and they'll help build something awesome out for you. So, okay, Fun question. What is the most unusual thing you collect? And if something's not unusual, what's one collectible that you are so proud of?
I don't know.
Do you want me to go first?
Stuffed animals.
Yeah, I
That
think
yours?
those are
Yeah.
plushies.
Do you have stuffed animals?
Yeah, so
Like Beanie Babies?
I
or
do
like
have a lot of
weird-
hats. What?
Like Beanie Babies? or
No,
like
no,
bigger?
no. Like Disney, Pixar, like just a bunch of like cool cartoon characters. So I'm very into thrifting, and there's something that clicked in me where I'd go to the thrift store and they have like bins of plushies, and I'm like, oh, I need to just collect a ton of them. So I have a shelf in my room that's just like, just covered.
So when did this start? How long? Still going on?
I haven't really collected it. It's full, so
Okay.
like I don't.
Do you have a favorite?
Probably Leonardo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's pretty cool. Or I have a big Pikachu that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
I don't know. So it's just all a bunch of like that. And
Yeah.
that probably started 7 years ago, maybe? Something
Cool.
like that. I don't know. It's been a while. So.
Cool. I didn't know that.
I have, in terms of things that I've like actively sought out for the idea of like I like collecting these. The thing that I'm like looking to actively grow a collection of is random teacups. I love antiquing. I love finding a single cup and saucer so I can have an eventual big like sorry, pardon my French, a big tea party of mismatched cups and saucers for
So
all
you'd
of my
actually
guests.
use these, or they be decor?
This would be something I'd use, but it would also just kind of be out decoratively in rooms where the colors work.
Yeah.
I also use them to hold candles a lot. I use them to like put throughout my house for whenever there's a power outage, then I can know the candle can safely melt into it. But
Nice.
yeah.
Mine is nutcrackers.
Nutcrackers?
Why does that feel super fitting for you?
Ever since the early 2000s, I would get one nutcracker every year, and it
It's like
probably
those Christmas villages. You just sort of
My
Yeah.
grandma has a big Christmas village.
yeah. It I haven't kept it going for some time. Like I probably ended it high schoolish, but occasionally I'll still get some little ones maybe. So I also have Mardi Gras one that I got recently because my brother lives in New Orleans.
Okay.
But yeah, I just have a bunch of them, and they just when they all sit out together, it's a little creepy.
there's an army.
But, yeah, but it was fun at the time collecting all the different themes and
Yeah.
whatnot. But cool.
So do you eat walnuts?
No, it's just decoration.
I see.
No, pecans.
I never use it for the namesake.
Well, at least you got it.
So,
Just in case.
yeah.
You never know, I guess.
So
I just love the idea of you having a nightmare one day of them all turning on you
Yeah.
in the
dark.
night. And just
Yeah.
like your neighbor comes out one day and there's just bins of these nutcrackers out.
yeah, it's it was almost turning into a problem. But now it's
Now it's not.
now it's under control and has died down. But,
You have your own space to
yeah,
Do what you want.
yeah.
It's funny.
Well, awesome.
Cool.
Thank you too. I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. And if you have any questions, let us know. Reach out to us. If you want to see a topic of some sort, just let us know as well. But thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a good day.